Hello everyone, welcome to another video. And in this video we are going to create a simple landing page by using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. We are not going to use any external libraries. We will just use the raw HTML, CSS and JavaScript. This is a very simple landing page. So if you are just a beginner at web development and you want to practice your web development skills, then this video is the perfect one for you. So let me show you the landing page first. We got a logo and navigation bar at the top of the page. Then we got a title and some images. And here we got the title with some description and a link with some beautiful hover effect. Also this one. Then we got two different rows with title and description as well. Then here comes the client's testimonial. So it looks like this, but there is no slider in here. This is just text. Then we have divided this entire row into grid items and we put 4 different images in each of the grid. Then here comes the footer, and this entire template is totally responsive. So if you just make it smaller, as you can see, this is responsive. Even the menu is responsive. I got the design of this landing page from the Frontend mentor website. They got multiple challenges of different levels. So I have already covered some of the challenges from here and created a playlist in this YouTube channel. If you are interested in that, please check the description, because I will leave the link of the playlist in the description below. So let's see. And this is the Sunnyside Agency landing page. Let's open this up. You need to log in with your GitHub. I have already done that. So let's enter into the project and download the starter file. So it will be downloaded as a zip file. Now we can open this up by 7-zip or WinRAR. Okay, it is going to take a little bit of time. And in the meantime, let's talk about the Pixie. So if you search for Pixie, Pixie, this is a tiny software for color picker. We can just download this from here. So let's open up the Sunnyside Agency landing page. So I have used the WinRAR and I will just extract the folder in the desktop. Okay, so it has included everything we need to create the markup and everything. So this is the design pictures or images. So this is how it looks like in active state whenever we hover on that. So when you hover on the button, it will look like this, and the link will look like this and this. And this is the desktop design, the inactive design actually. So this is the desktop preview and this is the mobile design. So this is a little bit tricky to convert it into mobile design, because as you can see, this X here is at the top and then the text, but in here the text come first. So we need to make the order of flexbox or grid to make it happen. We are going to see it in details in practically while we do the designing. Okay, fine. Now the image folder contain all the images for the template, and the index.html got the text we need for the template, and the style guide got some guides to do the styling. Let's open this entire folder up by VS Code. Okay, so this is the index.html and these are the text we need. So we don't need any style and attribute. I'll just delete that. Also there is attribution here. I'll also delete that. Fine, the Pixie has been downloaded. Let's open this up. This is a tiny tool. Whenever we hover on something, it will take the color of that. So let's close this on and this on. We don't also need this one, so I'll just close that. Okay, fine. Now what we are going to do is, let's go to the styleguide.md. So the mobile version got the 375 pixels and desktop version is 1440 pixels. The primary color is in here. They have used the SSL format, but we are not going to use that. We'll just hover on the image and use Pixie to pick the color and convert it into our HTML template. And I'm going to use this Pixie because in future, in practical life or practical web development, you will need to do that because the client maybe gave you the image as a JPG format or PNG format. So in that case, you need to hover on that and get the color of that particular element or something like that. Okay, so they got multiple colors which we are not going to use, and the body font size is 18 pixels and font family is Barlow and Francis. So we are going to import this. So Barlow should be 600 font weight and Francis should be 700 and 900. Okay, fine. Now let's create an style.css file and also a script.js file which will contain our JavaScript code. So we need to add that or link it up with the index.html. Let's do that. Link CSS and the image will do the rest. Now let's also link the script. They are in the script.js file. Fine, we are done creating the index style.css and script.js for the JavaScript. Now let's start creating the markup. So what do we need? We need a navigation bar with a logo at the top. Then we got a title and an image. So let's start. I think we can minimize this. Okay, I'm going to keep this on open and we can create the markup side by side. Fine, now let's start. So after the body we can use an header tag here. Sorry, it should be header. Header tag is an HTML5 semantic element. That means you can use this header tag to differentiate the header from rest of the body. It really helps with the search engine optimization or SEO. So inside the header, let's create a div and give this a class name of nav bar. So it will contain the navigation bar. And inside the navigation bar, we need two different type of elements, right? So at the left side, there will be the logo, and at the right side, there will be the navigation bar. So let's create a div with the class of logo, which will contain the logo, and it should be a link. So anchor tag, let's put a hash to put it blank. Now let's get the image of the logo. So they are in the images folder, then logo.svg. Okay, fine. We are done with our logo. Now let's move on to the next thing, which is the nav. And again, we can use the nav tag, which is also a HTML5 semantic element. So we can give this a class of nav, same. Now inside this, we can use an unordered list because the menu items are unordered list. We don't need to add an ordered list here. So in the unordered list, let's use the list item and anchor tag to put the links in here. I'll put a hash to make it blank, and we got the text in here. So I'll just cut this and paste it here. Let's just press Ctrl C, Ctrl V, so it will duplicate this entire line here. We got 4 items, so I'll just replace the other items as well. Okay, so we are done with our navigation bar. So we don't have anything else in header. Actually we do. We can add the title and the image in here also. So the navigation bar or the nav bar is done in here. So after finishing up the div, we can create another section and give this a class name of hero maybe, because this is the hero section. And inside the hero section, let's put the title tag. And remember one thing, that if you want to use the main text in an web page, you should use the ASON tag, the header on tag. And you cannot use the multiple ASON tag in a web page. You should only be using only on ASON tag, but you can use multiple h2 and h3 tags. Now let's put the text in here because this is the title. And after that, let's use the image. So this is a little bit tricky. We can use a div with the class of maybe arrow, so we can put the arrow with that, and inside it there will be the image, and images are in the images folder, icon arrow down. So this is it. So we got a div with the class of arrow and got the icon inside it. So we are done, and we can add this picture of the orange as a background image. So the header is done. Now let's move on to the next section, which is actually the main section. So what we can do, we can again use the HTML5 semantic elements like the main tag, and we can put everything inside this tag. So at first we need to create a row system, right? So we got two different columns here. So let's create a div with the class of row, and we are going to make this row and columns by ourselves when we are going to design the style.css. So inside it, let's create a div with the class of maybe column and column on. I'm going to use this column on class here to just position this properly, because in this case this column on is going to be this on, and the egg image here is going to be the column 2. But in mobile display the egg will come first, so we are going to apply the order with that specific class of column 1 and 2. And this column class, we are going to only use this column class to divide the row by half, which will be 50% and 50%, or into two different fractions. If you are confused, don't worry, we are going to be very clear about these things when we are going to style it. So inside this column 1, let's create a div with the class of box. We are going to create this div because I want to apply some padding with this box, so that there should be some gap at left, right, top and bottom here. So inside the box, let's use an h2 tag because this is kind of a secondary title or subtitle. So transform your brand, this on here, and after that we also got a paragraph text in here. So let's grab all of the text and paste it inside the paragraph tag. Then we got a anchor tag here because this is a link, learn more. So we can use an anchor tag. So we should give this a class because otherwise we will have difficulty styling it. So let's give it a class of button underline maybe. Fine. Now let's put the text, which is learn more. Okay, this is the row and column, the first one. Now let's create another column, and I'm going to also give this a class of column 2. So this is the column on and this is the column 2, and the column 2 will contain only the image, right? So let's grab the image, then in the images folder, sorry, the spelling is wrong, then desktop and image transform maybe. Yep, this is the on. So we got the column 2 in here. Now let's create another row, or we can just copy this if you are lazy. So let's do it again. Let's create another div with the class of row. Then inside the row I will put the image first, and the because here is the image come first, and all the images will have this column 2, and the text will have this column on. So let's create a div with the class of column and column 2. And now let's grab the image. There in the images folder, desktop and standout. Okay, this on. So this is the column 2 which will contain the image. Now let's create another div which will contain the text. So it should have only the column and column on class. Inside this there should be the box as well, because we are going to apply the same padding like before. Div and class name will be box h2, and let's grab the text from here. Okay, again there will be the paragraph tag which will contain this entire text. Then comes the anchor tag, and it should have a class of btn underline. And learn more. Sorry, it should be in here. Okay, the markup is almost done. Actually we have done only the halfway. Now we are inside the main, but we are after finishing the row we can add another div, and now we need to create a little bit different type of div, but it is almost the same. So let's create the row again, and inside it we only need the column, not onto, because we don't have to order this. So column, and inside this row let's create the column, and inside the column let's create the card. Actually this is not a card. I think there is a background image, or maybe an image and overlay text in here. So let's do it. Let's grab the image first. They are in the images, then desktop, and I again got the spelling wrong. Desktop and graphic design. Okay, this one. Now let's grab the text in the box. So we got a title and some subtitle. So we can create a div, and let's give this a class of maybe box content. Inside it let's use an h3 and a paragraph tag. h3 will contain the title, and the paragraph tag will contain the description. Okay, now as you can see the second box or card here is similar to this one, so we can just copy this column here and paste it here. Now we need to change the image and everything, so we are going to do that. And in case of here, this is the photography. Okay, now let's grab the text and replace the text as well. Let's also change the description. Okay, we are done up to here. Now let's move on to the testimonial section. So this is kind of a section, right? So we can use the section tag, which is also HTML5 semantic element, and we can give this a class of testimonial. Let's use an h2 tag for the title, client testimonial. After that we can create a div which will contain the entire testimonial items. So let's create a div with the class of testimonial container maybe. Okay, inside it let's create a div with the class of single testimonial. So it will contain the single testimonial item, and if you don't want to use this large name as a class, you can make it short like test or something like that. So inside the testimonial there should be a image at the top, then there will be some paragraph text, then there will be the name of the person, then there will be the designation. So let's grab the image first. Image, there in the images folder, then again images. Okay, the first one is Emily. Okay, this is the image. After that, after putting the image, let's put a paragraph tag which will contain the text. Now let's use an h5 tag which will contain the name of the person. So we can just grab that and paste it in here. We can also give this a class to style it later, maybe author. And this is the designation, and we can put the designation with the paragraph tag. Let's give this a class of designation and paste it here. So this is a single testimonial item, so we can make 2 copy of this because there are total 3 testimonial items. Let's just copy this and paste 2 times. Now we can create some gap so that we can understand the difference between the items. Fine, now we need to rename these things. The second one is Thomas, so I'll just replace the image. Okay, we also need to change the text as well. Let's just cut this and paste it in here. Also this on and this on. So this is the third one, and the third one is Jenny. Let's grab Jenny here and replace the text. Name and designation. So now we are done with the testimonial. Everything is okay now. Now let's see. Now we got this kind of gallery item. So after finishing up the section, we can create a div with the class of gallery. Now this is just 4 simple images in here, so you can directly add the images, then desktop, then the first one is milk bottles, so milk. Okay, this one. Let's just copy this 4 times or 3 more time. Now we can just change the image to put the correct image. The second one is orange here. The third one is cone. And the fourth one is sugar cubes. Okay, the gallery is done. Now I think the main section has been finished, because this thing here is the footer, and at the footer we got the logo first, then there will be 3 menu items and the social menu. So after finishing up the menu tag, we can use the footer tag here, and inside the footer let's create a div with the class of container, and inside the container let's get the image first, which will be the logo. Images, then logo.svg. So we got the logo. Now let's create a div with the class of footer dash menu, and this will contain the menu. In here we got 3 items: about, service and project. So we can use another list and list item and the anchor tag. This one should be about. Let's just copy, and we can also grab the text from here. Actually Okay, we got actually 3 items in here, but they got the text for 4 items. So about, then services, and then the projects. Fine, I'll just delete rest of the text, and the markup is done. We can open this up by the live server extension, and okay, this is how it looks like. It looks totally ugly and there is no symmetry in here. So now we are going to move on to the style.css and style it. Okay, so let's do that. We can just maximize this image because we are going to start it from the top here. Fine, now let's open up the style guide.md and we need to grab the font families first. So let's open up Barlow. We need to press Alt and click here. We only need the 600 font weight. Barlow and 600. Okay, this is the semi bold 600. Fine. Now let's also grab the next one, which is this Frances and 700 and 900. 7 and 9. This is the 700 bold and 900 black. Fine, we can import this by just copying this and paste it in the style.css. After that, I'm also going to grab these two and paste it in here. Let's comment this out for now. We are going to use it later. We can close this too. Now by default there is some gap at left, right and top, also at the bottom, because the browser got some default margin and padding, so we need to remove it. To reset this, we can use the asterisk or the universal selector and use margin 0 padding, sorry, it should be padding also 0. Now if we save this, you can see that this gap disappears, as you can see. Also, let's use the box sizing as a border box. Fine. So we got the font family imported, but we need to use that. So in the case of the body, we are going to use the Barlow font, and it got the font size of 18 pixels. So let's target the body first and use the font family of Barlow sans serif. And the font size should be 18 pixels, and the font weight, we got the font weight of 600 for the Barlow. You can see that Barlow 600. Now as you can see, the font has been changed. Now let's also talk about the typography a little bit. So as you can see in the image here, the title got this different type of text or font family, this on, and every one of the titles in here. So they have used this Francis font for that. So I'm just going to copy this and target the H1, H2, H3 and H5 tag, because we haven't used the H4 maybe. Now the title font changes. Okay, and we also got two type of font weight, 700 and 900. So I want to make the font weight to 900. Now it has been applied. And in case of paragraph tag, I also want to increase the line height a little bit. They are too much congested. So let's use the line height of 1.5. The default is on. Now there should be a little bit gap between the lines. Okay, now the generalized styling is done. Now let's move on to the specific ones. Like we can start from the header. And for the header, there is a background image. As you can see, the header got this orange as a background image here. So for the background, I'll just use the URL and images, desktop, and image header. This one, let's save and see the image is there. After that, we can also specify the background size and everything. So we want the background size to be covered. We can also use the shorthand method if you want. Background repeat should be no repeat because we don't want the background to repeat itself. We can also give this a minimum height of 100 viewport height. Let's save, because this should be taking 100 viewport height, and 100 viewport height is this one. Now half of the image is outside of this viewport, but we don't want that, so we can use the background position and bottom. Okay, now it looks fine, right? So after header, let's move on to the nav bar. Nav bar, and if you want to position it like this image here, so the logo should be at the left side and all the items here of the navigation links will be at the right side. We can use the flex to make that happen. So we are going to use the display flex, and now we should put these two at the different end, so we can use the justify content and space between. If you have any doubt about the flexbox, there is a video in this channel. I will leave the link in the description below. This is just only for 13-minute video, so you can just watch this and clear your confusions. Okay, let's also add some padding with this, maybe 3 rem. Let's save. Actually we can use the em. Now we got some nice gap left and right, top and bottom. So after starting the navigation bar, let's move on to the items in here. So nav eval li, we can make this display inline block so that they appear in the same line like this. Now I'm also going to add some padding, lab eval li, and give this a margin at the right side of 40 pixels. So but the thing in here is we don't want the margin right with the last item here, because we don't need any gap. We already got the gap by using this 3 rem padding. So we only want to exclude the last child. So how we can do that? We can use the not selector. So not the last child. Let's save. Now it looks okay. Now after that, let's target the anchor tag nav eval li and a. There is a text decoration of underline and we don't want that, so we can make the text decoration none and change the color to white, because as you can see in the design, this is white. Now we are going to style this contact link separately, because as you can see, this is kind of a button. So what we can do is we can go to the index.html and move to the top. Let's give this a class of btn. Now we can style it separately. So nav eval li a with the class of btn. Let's make the text transform. Okay, let's see. So all of the letter here is capital, so we can use the text transform uppercase to make that. And we got a white background color and with some border radius. So text transform uppercase. Font family is different. So font family This is the Francis font, so I'll just copy this and paste it here. Okay, it has changed. Sorry, it got repeated. Okay, now it changed. The color should be black because we got a white background color. So let's add the background color and make it white. We can use the triple F. Let's also add some padding here, like 14 pixels at top and bottom and 24 pixels or 25 pixels and left and right. Let's also add a border radius here of 35 pixels maybe to make the corners rounded. I also need to make the font size a little bit smaller, like 14 pixels. This is too much. Okay, now we can also add a hover effect on that. So for that we can use a transition, like all 0.2 second and is maybe. Now we are going to grab that and add a hover effect. So let's paste it here and add a hover effect. So when we hover on that, we want to change the color to make it totally white, which is triple F, and background color. So now this is time to use the pixie here. So in order to use the pixie, let's use the active status. Okay, let's zoom in, and if you hover on that and press, there is actually the tutorial in here. So Control Alter and C to copy HTML, Control Alter X to color mixer, or Control Alter Z to use the magnifier. So we just need to press the Control Alter and C. So let's hover on that and press Control Alter C. We can directly use the color in here. Let's select it and press Control V, and this is the color. We just need to push and put an hexagonal code here. So hash. Fine, it is looking great. Now the navigation bar is done. Now let's move on to the hero section, which is this one. So let's target the hero, and I want the text align to be center because all the things in here is in center. Now they are. Let's also add some padding at the top, like 15 viewport height. Fine. Now let's style this JSON title tag. So hero and JSON. Let's make the font size to 56 pixels. Text transform will be uppercase. Looks great. The color should be totally white, as you can see at the design here. And let's make some letter spacing to create some gap between the letters here. Maybe 6 or 5 pixels. Okay, now they are separate. And let's also add some padding at the bottom to maybe 10 viewport height. Okay, now we got some nice gap. Okay, I think the hero section is done. Now let's move on to the next section, which is this one. So this is a little bit tricky and you need to have proper understanding of grid system. And if you don't worry, I'm going to explain it very easily. So we need to divide this entire row into two different columns. So half and half, okay? So let's do that. And each of this thing here or the columns here got the class of COL, right? So let's target the grid first, grid, which will contain the columns, and we are going to give this a display of grid. After that, we are going to divide that grid into two halves. So how we can do that? We can use the grid template columns, and we are going to divide it into two different fractions. So on fraction and on fraction. Let's save. Okay, so this should be on fraction and this should be on different fraction. Let's see. We got, sorry, I have done a mistake in here because it should be row, not grid. Actually long class name. Let's say it should not, it is not working. Let's change the class name and save. Now we got it. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to the next thing here. So we have to do something about this text and this extra large size image. So this is actually overflowing everything because the size is not 100%. So we can solve this issue very easily by putting a column, and let's target the image here and give this a height of 100%, and hopefully it will solve the issue. Let's also give this a height of 100%, and let's make the display block, otherwise it will cause some problems. Fine, so they have divided into two different fractions and it is looking exactly like the same in here, but we need to do a little bit of modifications. I'll just make it bigger. Okay, so what do we need? We need some padding with this box here. That's why I have put this class name of box. So let's use that box and give this a padding of, we can use an responsive unit here like viewport height. So it should change when the height changes. So that will make it responsive. So after putting the padding with the box, let's target the h2 tag inside the box here. Let's make the font size to 46 pixels, and we also need to change the color as well. Let's see, this is the color. Let's press Ctrl Alt C. So let's add the color hash and put it. Okay, now let's also add some margin at the bottom in here, like 30 pixels maybe. Now let's target the box and the paragraph tag. We also need to change the color. We can grab the color from here. Let's zoom in and we can press Ctrl Alt Z and select it from here, Ctrl Alt C. Let's change the color and paste the color. Let's again add a margin at the bottom of maybe 25 pixels. Now we need to style this anchor tag. So it looks like this, but let's see the inactive status as well. Okay, but I think we can be a little bit creative with that. So we can enlarge this height and make it cover the entire text. So that's what we are going to do. Let's grab the color and target the anchor tag. So they got the class of btn underline. So the text font here is little bit different. So this is the Barlow, but before that, okay, I'll just paste the color code here and comment this out. We are going to use that later. So let's grab the font family of Francis from here and paste it inside the button underline. Okay, after that let's change the color here as well. So the color code, we need to grab that. Okay, I think this and this color is the same, so I'll just replace that. Okay, so after that let's make the text decoration none because we don't want that underline there. Also the text transform should be uppercase. Let's use the letter spacing a little bit, like on pixels, and font weight should be 700. Let's also use the font size here as well, like 16 pixels, a little bit smaller. And we are going to make the position relative because we are going to use the pseudo element here, and we are going to make that pseudo element position absolute. So btn underline, and let's use the after, and at first the content will be blank, then the position will be absolute. Now we can position it accordingly. So let's use the background color, and we have got this color here. Now we can remove the comment, we don't need that anymore. Now we need to give this a specific wide, height and everything with the pseudo element, otherwise we cannot see it. So let's give this a height of 10 pixels and wide of maybe 110 pixels, or 110% actually. So it should be larger than this thing, this text here. And we also need to position it, so left -5%. I hope you are understanding this, because we got the wide of 110%. That means 10% extra from the learn more text, and we are going to push it by 5% at the left. So there will be the rest 5% at the right side. Okay, from bottom it should be at the bottom, so 0. Now it is kind of overlapping the text here, so we can use the z index of -1 maybe. Let's save. Now they are below this text. Everything looks great. Okay, we can also use a transition here, because I'm going to add a hover effect on that. Transition will only be applied on the height, 0.4 second maybe. Now let's apply the hover effect. So when the hover effect will work, so when we are going to hover on the button underline, then it is going to apply on the after pseudo element, right? So let's target that button underline, and when we hover on that, it is going to affect the after. Let's make the height to 100%. Let's save, and if you hover on that, now it looks great. Fine. I think in comparison to this yellow color, this color looks great. So let's use this on Alt C. And if you want two separate color for two separate design, you can also do that. You just need to put a different type of class name with that. But let's not make things complex. Okay, so we are done with these things here, the grid items, these two top items in here. Now let's move on to this card. So in this card, it is kind of tricky. We are going to use the image as a relative, then we are going to make this text position absolute, then position it over the image at the center. So that is what we are going to do. Let's target the card and make the position relative. After that, let's target the card and box content. Okay, so the box content is this text in here, title and the subtitle. So in this case, we are going to make it position absolute. Okay, position absolute. Then let's position it from the top, like 70% maybe, and they should be at the center, right? So we can use the text align center. We can also give this a maximum height of maybe 400 pixels. Okay, now we need to use the margin of Actually, we don't need to use the margin. We can use the left of 50%. Now it should start from the 50% left, but we don't want that. That's why we are going to use the transform translate, and around the x-axis let's use minus 50%, and around the y-axis also minus 50%. Now they should be at the center like this. Let's style the tags here, like the h3 tag and the paragraph tag. So box content and the h3. So let's make the font size like 34 pixels, and let's also add a margin bottom here to 30 pixels maybe. Okay, but we need to change the text of the color of the text in here. The paragraph tag and the age tag got the similar kind of color, so I'll just copy this color here and we can apply it on this one. So color, paste. Okay, so it looks fine. So we are done with it, the cards. Now let's move on to the testimonial items. So in the testimonials, let's go down. At first I'm going to target the testimonial. Let's make the text align center, because everything in here is at the center. The image, text, the author name, designation, and everything. So after that we can also add a little bit of padding. So the padding should be applied on top, bottom, left and right, but the top and bottom is kind of similar. So let's use the responsive kind of padding here, like 14 viewport height at top and bottom, and 7 viewport height at the left and right, because this should be applied on the vertical axis or top and bottom. That's why I have used the viewport height, and in this case this will be applied on left and right. It means at the y direction. So that's why I have used the vertical, or sorry, viewport wide. Let's save, and there should be a nice gap at top and bottom. Now let's target the testimonial and the h2 here. Let's grab the text color, and we can apply the color first. After that let's make the text transform uppercase, and also let's apply letter spacing. Sorry, the spelling is wrong. So the letter spacing should be 5 pixels around. Okay, nice. Let's make the font size to 22 pixels, and let's also apply a margin bottom of maybe 8 viewport height. So it looks like kind of this one. So we are doing great. Now let's move on to the testimonial container, and again we are going to use the the display grid to make it look like this. Now in this case we need to divide this entire container into 3 fractions. Okay, so let's do that. Testimonial container. Now let's make the display grid, and then grid template columns will be 3 fractions. Let's save. Now they are divided into 3 fractions. So if you want to create some gap between the items, you can directly use the gap here, like gap and whatever you want. So I want 70 pixels gap here, so I will just put a value of 70 pixels. Now as you can see, there is a gap between the items in here. So after putting the testimonial container, let's target the single testimonial, and at first I will style the image. So single testimonial, and let's target the image here. Let's give this a height of 80 pixels, wide of 80 pixels as well. Let's also make the border radius 50% to make the image totally rounded, because as you can see the image is like a circle. So after putting the border radius, we can also add a margin bottom like 50 pixels to create some gap with the text. Sorry, it should be pixels. Now we need to change the color of the text here. But okay, let's do that. Single testimonial and paragraph tag. Let's change the color to something like, I got the hexagonal color code, so I'll just put it here. It should be 595A 5D. Let's save. Hopefully it is the same. Okay, now let's target the S5 with the class of author, which is I think this one. Okay, S5 with the class of author and paragraph tag with the class of designation. So for the author, let's change the color first, and we can grab the color. Fine. Now let's also give this a margin top of like 70 pixels. And do we need to do anything else in here? We can change the font size a little bit, like 22 pixels, a little bit larger than before. Now we are going to target the paragraph tag with the class of designation. Okay, with the designation we just need to change the color first. Let's grab the color from here. We can use the zoom function. Okay, let's copy the color code and paste it in here. We need to put the hash first. Okay, this looks similar. Now let's change the font size a little bit to make it smaller, like 14 pixels, and a margin top of 10 pixel. Let's save, and it looks similar with this one. Now we are done with the testimonial. Now let's move on to the gallery. So this is almost similar, but in this case we are going to divide this grid or the column into 4 different rows. I think this is columns. Okay, anyway, let's target the gallery here. I think the spelling is wrong. Let's grab the class name. So we got the class of gallery. Let's copy. Okay, now we need to put the display of grid, and grid template columns should be 4 fraction. Okay, let's save. Now we got 4 different items, but this is kind of overflowing the entire thing. That's why we need to target the image inside the gallery. Gallery and image. Let's give this a width and height. So width should be 100%. Now this should solve the problem, and it does. We don't need to do anything about the gallery for now. Now let's move on to the footer section. So for the footer section, we got this background color, which we are going to copy it from here. So let's target the footer. Let's grab the background to this color. Now after that, let's make the text align to the center, because all the text in here at the footer segment is at the center. Let's also add a padding like 5 rem and 0. We don't need any padding at left and right, but we need the padding at top and bottom. So inside the footer, Let's target the logo first. But we actually don't need to target the logo because we cannot apply an hover effect on a image or anything. Like we cannot change the color, right? So we are going to ignore that. Now let's target the footer menu, which will contain this about service and project. So let's give this a margin top of like 30 pixels to create some gap with the menu. After that, let's also add a margin bottom of like 70 pixels. Let's save. Okay, so it looks fine. Now let's add some margin and padding. So let's target the footer menu, eval, li, and not the last child. So other than the last child, everyone should have a margin at the right of 40 pixels, so there should be a gap. It is actually unnecessary because we have already added the same thing with list item. It is already applied. Let's just comment this out. See, there is no difference. So I'll just remove this. Now we need to apply some hover effect with that. So when we hover on that, we need to change the color to white. So what we are going to do is, I actually forgot to add the social menu. Yep, I did. So we are going to do that, but before that, let's handle this. So with the footer menu, let's target the footer menu eval, li, and a. Let's change the color to this on. So we can grab the color from here. This is similar with this on. Okay, now it looks fine. We can also add the hover effect with that. Now when we hover on that, we need to make the color to totally white. Now it looks fine. We can also add a transition effect like color 0.2 second is. Let's save. Okay, now the thing I forgot to add is the social menu. Okay, these things. So there are total 5 menu or icon. But the thing is, as the image suggests, we need to add a hover effect, but you cannot add a hover effect on the image. So if you want to add the hover effect, we can directly copy and paste the SVG code, or we can use the icon. Like they have suggested us some icon here, like font of some icon moon and ion icons. But let's put the image to make it simple. So after finishing up the nav bar, but before finishing up the div, we can create another nav which will contain the social menu. So we can give this a id name of social menu. Okay, another list item, anchor tag, hash, and there should be the images inside it. So images icon Facebook. Okay, there is a lot, so I'll just copy this, paste this here for 4 times. Now we need to change the icon. So the second one is the icon Instagram, the third one should be the icon Twitter, and the last one got the icon Pinterest. Fine, we got everything. So I think we are okay with this. Let's say, okay, we cannot add the hover effect because they are the images, but if you want to add the hover effect, we need to use the SVG icons, and the gap are okay, like similar, so we are not going to do anything with that. But this inter template is not responsive, so if we make it smaller, it is going to break down. See, it looks ugly, these images and everything, so we are going to fix it. So how we are going to do that? Well, by using the media query. So let's start from the top. So what we are going to do is the inspect, and this is the device. The first breakpoint I want to add is 1020 pixels. Okay, 1020. Okay, this one. So let's target this and do some modifications. So let's add the media query first. Media only screen and maximum, sorry, it should be inside the bracket, max height 1020 pixels. Now at first I want to decrease the padding with the box here. There are so much for this height, so I'll reduce the padding here. So let's target the box and reduce the padding to like 60 pixels. Now they are looking fine. Okay, we are going to see this box and modify this. So box content, and we have given this a maximum height of 400 pixels, I guess. So I'm just going to make it 80%. Sorry, height 80%. Okay, after putting the box content, let's target the card and box content here. I'm not actually sure. Let me see inside the card here. There is a box content here, which is this text. Okay, so in here, I just want to reduce the margin bottom a little bit. So let's do that. Margin bottom, sorry, I want to push it a little bit top. So top, before it was, let me see. We can just inspect this. We don't need to see through that entire thing. The box content here, and it got top 70%. I just want to reduce it a little bit. So maybe 67%. In that case, if you make it smaller, it looks fine. Okay. Now with the H3, I want to reduce the margin bottom a little bit. So what we can do is we can target the box content and H3. Sorry. And reduce the margin bottom to 15 pixels. It was 30 pixels before, I guess. Let's save. Okay, fine. Now let's add another media query because it is kind of breakdown. Let's add 768 pixels, maybe 7. Okay, 768 pixels. So what we can do is we can just copy this on and paste it in here. Let's complete the bracket and make it 768 pixels. Fine. Now in the 768 pixels, we want the menu to break down because they are kind of looking congested. So what we can do is we can go back to the index.html. Let's add a hamburger icon in here so that the hamburger icon will be displayed only for a smaller size display, but for larger size display it should be hidden. Okay, so this is the nav, and before the nav we are going to add the hamburger icon. So let's create a div with the class of hamburger. Inside it we are going to add the image icon hamburger. We got the hamburger icon in here, but for every size display we don't want to see that or show that. So hamburger, and make the display Let's make it none. Now it should be gone. But the thing is, we want to display the hamburger icon whenever this should be smaller than 768 pixels. So now we are going to target the hamburger and make the display inline block. Let's save. Now we can see that. So now we are going to change the nav bar as well. So let's target that nav bar. Actually not nav bar, because we don't have any nav bar here. It should be nav dash bar. Okay, but we don't need to target that for now. Let's target the nav here, which is the element, this entire thing. Okay, so for the nav we want to make it position absolute so that we can position it ourselves. Okay, let me minimize this. Okay, it looks like this. So what I'm going to do is going to target the nav bar and make the position relative. Okay, after that let's give this a nav a void of 100%. Let's save. Let's also change the background color, and I got a hexagonal color code for that, 00AAFF, which is this color. Okay, now from the left it should be 0, and from the top let's give this like 100 pixels. Now it should have some gap at the top. Let's make the height, we can put it 0 for now, but I'm going to comment this out, and let's make the overflow hidden. Fine, so it is gone. Now if we comment this out, it should be visible. So that is how we are going to display it and hide it. Now we also need to target the nav, eval and li. Let's make it display block so that each of the items should be appear at the defined line. Let's target the dot here as a class, and nav, eval, li, not the last item. Let's make this a margin right of 0, because we don't need any margin right here for the smaller size display. So now it looks like this, totally ugly and everything. Now they look pretty congested, so in order to solve that we can add some padding with that. So nav, eval, li, I'm just going to add some padding. So let's do that. We just only need the padding at top and bottom, not for left and right. So let's save. Okay, fine, it looks great. And in order to make the text align at the center, we can also use the text align center. Sorry, there should be something wrong in here. It is text align center, everything is okay. Okay, kind of it looks great. Now we need to remove this whenever we click on that. So we are going to use a little bit of JavaScript to make that happen. So what I'm going to do is create a class, maybe toggle, and give this a height of auto. We can also put an important here. So we are going to add the toggle with this, but in normal condition we just want to make the height 0 so that it should be invisible. But whenever we click that, it should add this toggle class with this nav so that it appears. Okay, so let's target the script tag and let's create a variable to grab it, maybe menu. Document dot query selector. not all, only query selector. Let's grab the hamburger. It is a class, so dot and hamburger. Fine. So with that, with the menu, which is actually this hamburger icon, whenever we click that, we want something to happen, right? So we need to add a event listener with that. So add event listener, and the event here will be the click. So whenever we click that, something will happen. So there should be the callback function. So as the callback function, we need to target the document dot query selector, and we need to grab the nav tag, and we are going to target the class list and toggle the class of toggle. We need to put a colon. Okay, this is very simple. So at first we grab the hamburger icon, which is this one, from the document by using the query selector, and after that we have added the event listener with that element. Whenever we click on that, so click in here is the event. When the event happens, this callback function occurs. So in the function we grab the nav tag. Actually this is the nav class, and we are going to get into the class list of the item and toggle the class of toggle. So that means when we click it for the first time, it is going to add the class of toggle with the nav. Then again, whenever we are going to click it for the second time, it is going to remove the class of toggle from the nav. Okay, this is very simple. Okay, so if you want to see it, you can also inspect this. So this is the nav bar and this is the nav. So as you can see, there is only this nav, but if we click it, it is going to add the toggle class with it. And again, if we click that, the toggle class got removed. So this is very simple, right? Okay, so the menu is done, but not everything else. So there is this weird gap in here, and we don't on that. So let's move back to the style.css and finish the styling process. Okay, so the navigation bar done. Now let's target the row, and let's change the grid template columns only on fractions. So I just want to divide it into different lines, but as you can see, as the image suggests, the image of the egg appear first, then there should be the text. So how we can make that happen? Well, this is very easy because I have added the column 2 here. So the column 2 always contains the image. Okay, so let's target the column 2 and give this a order of -1. By default, each item got the order of on. The lower the order is, the first it will appear. So if the column 2 got the order less than the column on, which is this text, it will appear first. So as you can see, the image appear first, then there is the text, then again image appear first, then there is the text. Okay, now for the box here, I think the text is at the center, so we need to apply that. Let's target the box here and make the text align center. Fine. Now let's move on to the testimonial container. Again, we need to make the grid template columns only on fraction. Okay, fine. Now it looks like this, kind of ugly. Let's save. Now it appears after each other vertically. Now again, we need to fix that in the gallery. So let's target the gallery and change it. So we want two images in a single row here, as you can see at the design. So grid template columns, I want on fraction and on fraction. Let's save and it looks great. Now let's add another breakpoint like 425 maybe. Okay, the tests are kind of large for this breakpoint, and we need to style this. Whenever we are going to hover on the hamburger, we want the cursor to be pointer. So let's grab that hamburger and cursor pointer. Let's save. Okay, now it's okay. Now okay, let's go to the bottom here. Let's add another media query. Media only screen and maximum height of 425 pixels. Let's target the nav bar first. Nav bar, I just want to reduce the padding a little bit. So previously the padding was 3 em. I will just make it half, 1.5 em. Let's save. Okay, now it looks fine. After that, let's target the text in here, which is this hero text, this one. So hero and ASON, let's make it font size of 36 pixels, a little bit smaller. After that, let's target the box and reduce the padding to 40 pixels. So there is a less gap at left and right, top and bottom. I also want to change the font size of box title, which is the S2. Let's reduce the font size to 36 pixels and margin bottom to 20 pixels. Let's save. Now it looks fine. For the paragraph tag here, I think we should make it smaller. Font size, let's make it 17 pixels. It was 18 pixels before. And we can also reduce the line height to maybe 1.3. It was 1.5 before. I think we are done with the styling. Let's see. It works fine, and scroll down, everything works great. Okay, I think it is okay. So there is no issue so far. And if you want to see the entire project, I will add the code in the code pen. So you will also find the link in the description below. So you can just play with it on the code pen. So thank you very much for watching this video, and if you like this, please don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up and share this with your friends. And if you are interested in learning Bootstrap, I will have a complete course on that on Udemy. You will also find the link in the description below. So this is it for today, and see you in the another video. Until then, take care and goodbye.